For 165 million years, dinosaurs dominated every corner of this planet. Then, in less than 24 hours, their world was gone.
But here's what nobody tells you. The asteroid didn't kill them. What came after did. And for a brief moment in Earth's history, all complex life nearly vanished forever. This is the hour-by-hour story of the worst day our planet has ever seen.
It was springtime. We know this now from fossilized fish bones that recorded the season like tree rings. Somewhere over what is now Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, a point of light appeared in the sky. Within seconds, it grew brighter than the sun, and then, a rock roughly 10 kilometers wide, about the size of Mount Everest, struck the shallow seas at over 70,000 kilometers per hour. The energy released was staggering, roughly 100 million megatons. To put that in perspective, that's more than 1 billion nuclear bombs detonating simultaneously. The late Cretaceous period ended in that instant. But the extinction? That was just beginning.
The moment of impact created a blinding flash visible from space. A crater 30 kilometers deep and over 150 kilometers wide was gouged into the Earth in seconds. The asteroid itself was vaporized instantly, along with trillions of tons of rock. A wall of superheated air, over 1,000 kilometers per hour, radiated outward from the impact site. Everything within 1,500 kilometers was shredded. No dinosaur, no tree, no living thing in that zone survived the first 60 seconds. Within minutes, something terrifying began. The impact had blasted rock and debris high above Earth's atmosphere. Now that material started falling back down, all over the planet, all at once.
Scientists call this the thermal pulse. As countless trillions of tiny glass spherules re-entered the atmosphere, the friction turned them into white-hot embers. The sky itself began to glow red. Surface temperatures in some regions may have spiked to several hundred degrees for hours. Based on geological evidence, massive wildfires likely ignited across parts of the Americas and possibly beyond. The exact extent is debated among scientists, but the soot found in rock layers suggests fires burned vast stretches of forest within the first day.
Meanwhile, seismic waves rippled through the Earth's crust. Earthquakes of magnitude 10 or higher shook the planet. In some regions, these tremors arrived within minutes, sloshing rivers and lakes violently. A phenomenon called a seiche. The oceans weren't spared. Tsunamis, some estimated to be over 100 meters tall, began radiating outward from the Gulf of Mexico. They would reach coastlines thousands of kilometers away within hours.
But the most devastating effect was just taking shape overhead. The impact had struck rock rich in sulfur. Hundreds of billions of tons of sulfate particles were now rising into the stratosphere. By the end of the first 12 hours, a shroud of dust and aerosols had begun spreading across the globe. When dawn should have come, it didn't. Not really.
The dust cloud thickened. Sunlight struggled to reach the surface. Temperatures that had spiked from the thermal pulse began to plummet. Scientists estimate global temperatures may have dropped by several degrees within days and kept falling. This was the beginning of what researchers call an impact winter. By the third day, the darkness was profound. In some models, light levels dropped so low that photosynthesis became nearly impossible. Plants couldn't make energy. Phytoplankton, the microscopic organisms at the base of ocean food chains, began dying off. The sulfur that had been blasted into the atmosphere began mixing with water vapor. The result was sulfuric acid. Rain began falling that could burn leaves, acidify lakes, and slowly poison ecosystems. Within a week, the food chain was collapsing from the bottom up. Herbivores that survived the initial chaos now faced starvation. No sunlight meant no new plant growth. In the oceans, the death of phytoplankton meant zooplankton starved. Fish that fed on zooplankton starved, and the predators that hunted them had nothing left to eat.
The planet had entered a death spiral, and it would get worse before it got better. Here's something that often gets lost in the story of the dinosaurs. This extinction nearly took everything. According to current estimates, approximately 75% of all species on Earth went extinct. But the loss wasn't evenly distributed. In some ecosystems, the die-off was even more severe. Photosynthesis, the foundation of nearly all food chains, essentially stopped for months. Recent models suggest the darkness may have persisted for up to 2 years before enough sunlight returned for plants to recover.
Research presented at scientific conferences has modeled this collapse. Ecosystems could survive darkness lasting up to 150 days, but somewhere around 200 days they crossed a critical threshold, a tipping point beyond which recovery became far more difficult. The oceans may have returned to something resembling a single-celled state, not seen in over 500 million years. Complex marine food webs were devastated. So how did anything survive at all?
The answer lies in the margins. Freshwater ecosystems had higher survival rates, possibly because many freshwater organisms could enter dormancy or survive on detritus. Small burrowing mammals could hide underground. Creatures that could eat dead organic matter, decomposers, scavengers, had an advantage. Thermal refuges, warm springs, geothermal areas, some organisms found shelter from the cold. Life didn't survive because it was strong. It survived because it was small, adaptable, and in the right place at the right time. Our ancestors were among those survivors. Now, here's a question that scientists have debated for decades. How long did the dinosaurs actually hold on after the impact? The honest answer is, we're still not certain. The image of dinosaurs being wiped out in a single flash is dramatic, but it's not quite accurate. The initial blast and thermal pulse would have killed anything in the immediate impact zone within minutes. But dinosaurs living on other continents? They weren't vaporized by the impact itself.
Based on ecological models and the fossil record, most researchers believe the majority of non-avian dinosaurs likely perished within weeks to months, primarily from starvation as food chains collapsed. One paleontologist put it simply, they died suddenly and were buried quickly. Days, weeks, maybe months. Some scientists have proposed that isolated populations might have survived slightly longer in certain regions, but concrete evidence for this remains scarce. What we do know is that by the time the dust settled, literally, all non-avian dinosaurs were gone. One branch, however, made it through. The ancestors of modern bird, the only dinosaurs to survive, weathered the catastrophe. How they did it is still being studied, but their small size and potentially seed-based diet may have given them an edge. So, in a sense, dinosaurs never went fully extinct. You can see their descendants outside your window.
Within 300,000 years, a geological instant, productive ecosystems began returning. Within a few million years, mammals began to diversify, eventually filling the ecological niches left empty by the dinosaurs. And 10 million years after that, life on Earth had rebuilt itself completely, though it looked very different than before.
The Chicxulub impact wasn't just a mass extinction, it was a reset button. A reminder that on cosmic timescales, even 165 million years of dominance can end in a single day. The dinosaurs couldn't see it coming, but we can. And that might make all the difference. If you want more prehistoric stories backed by real science, hit subscribe. We are just getting started.